So I recently purchased an angle grinder because I've had a saw blade, a pair of saw blades that were meant for cutting steel, laying around for quite a long time, and I decided I'm finally going to get around to making something out of them, even though I don't have like a filing jig or anything like that. I was just gonna have after it, and the very first thing that I did was I made this. Now, there's a lot of things that are about this knife that I put in there to test out. I was originally going for a sheep's foot shape, and I wound up with a Warncliffe. I beveled the edge here to give it a false edge to make it easier to get into things if I were going to stab with it, although it doesn't run all the way down because of, manufacturing errors. The grind right around here it's not going to focus. It's a very multi-ground right there, and it's very rough, and this is the kind of thing that I criticize people who hand make knives like this on the cheaper end for. But it was my first knife ever, so I'm going to give myself a little bit of slack, and besides, it's not like this is one that I plan on selling to anybody. This is just something for me. I'm hesitant to go ahead and make a sheath for it because this isn't really a knife. This is a razor blade. The steel is supremely hard, as in that Carbide block cutting sharpening tool, the SpeedySharp that I always use. It actually puts some glint on the edges that you might be able to see if I try to show you there. You see that little line of light right there? Right there. Yeah. That was not there before, and as it turns out, this steel is very hard, which also means that it's going to hold that edge for quite a long time. So I put an 8,000 grit edge on it, and it's not completely done. I stopped about halfway through on the 8,000 scales. I had other stuff to do that day and that I needed to get going with, but it's still a razor blade, and it cuts like magic. Like I've got some fungo paste, just nothing. I stopped partway through there, and yeah, very flimsy over there. The only issue that I'm having is that because I did it by hand, did the primary bevel there by hand with an angle grinder, it's not perfect. It needs some cleaning up. In particular, the last littlest bit right there is just slightly off, so the scales aren't in full contact when I'm sharpening that, but I did a little bit of lift to try and get around that problem. It's still, like you can see, that effect looks very nice right there. But let's see, some other issues that I had making this knife. The cheek right here comes all the way up there, but on the other side, no, it's down here. See, right? It stopped right there. And you can really see this on the point if it will. Yeah. It's much higher on one side than it is on the other side. Although the lighting is not terribly. Let's see if I can catch the light. You can really see it. No, it's not going to cooperate. Oh well. The grip here is also something that I've been very keen on lately. I wanted an index finger groove and a pinky groove. And I like a full four-finger knife. Most of the knives that get marketed as four-finger knives are not actually. The handle, the hilt, and this non-sharp part is supposed to be very slightly longer than the blade, unless you've got like a dagger or something like that. I like being able to get my entire hand onto it. with room to spare. The hole was already there. There's a mounting hole on the other side. This is the piece that's left over from the cutting off of, and I'm gonna get to this in a little bit. Anyway, most of the 4-finger knives that you see are really more like 3.5, and I also wanted something just to test it out. It's not really ideally suited for this knife, but I wanted to see if it would be equally comfortable in a reverse grip, and what do you know, it is. I think that might, when I get up into full production and get better at this, I think this might be the dominant handle style that I go with, is a groove there and there with a bit of swell in the middle. The corners are a little hot here. They're a little squared on because, like, that curve was put in there entirely with an angle grinder, and it's a little ugly when you look at the curves themselves. I got better on it, like when we get to that one. Yeah, that looks much nicer. But so this was the first try. This was one day in about 2 sessions, and I broke for lunch. Bonus features. So some things that I didn't manage to talk about in my single cut before, that I might include as an insert, we'll see what happens, is this knife looks gigantic, especially when you compare it to, for example, this knife. It looks a lot bigger than it actually is, because, believe it or not, well, you don't have to, there's no believe it or not, I'm going to show you right now, the edge on this actually runs for 3 7/8 inches. So despite it looking like monstrously huge, it's actually not that big a deal. For comparison's sake, this knife is... Yeah, it's only got like a 1/16 of an inch short of this edgewise, and still within the concealed carry limit for where I'm at right now. Yeah, don't have a whole lot extra to say about that, other than the reason that I chose to just charge ahead with this one is because this is a high-speed steel that doesn't anneal until it hits like 25,000 degrees, so I figured I was in the clear to use something that you couldn't adjust the speed on, which is the angle grinder that I have. Alright, I also, I never really liked little choils right here, like that little cutout right there, but I found it was very helpful when I was grinding the blade, to have that visible on both sides to make it even and everything. It's kind of I put that on after I got about halfway through it. That's why it's not even. But yeah, so you can see how different that is from that side to that side. So this little choil dip here is very helpful. There's also some issues with the edge right up there, but oh, that just feels wonderful. Anyway, it's very hard, and I'm considering making a sheath for it. What I really, really want to do is I want to put wood scales on here, but that's something that I've never done either. So I would want to make this fully rounded, and I have essentially destroyed this file trying to smooth out the hot spots, or at least round the corners on everything. So that may not go anywhere. Then, this one I am super proud of. I wanted a light carry neck knife to sort of replace this guy for when I feel like going light and when I don't want to make it super obvious that that thing on my neck is a knife. It's also incredibly low print because I have one of those. I made this on the same day. Yeah, all of this was made in one day. The blade itself, from the time that I walked into the shop with it, it was attached like that. From the time that I walked in with it to the time that I walked out with a mostly complete knife, except for the final sharpening on the edge, was 45 minutes. So, yeah, I improved quickly. Rounded off the corner right here, rounded off the back corner right there. Now, in the past, I've been very... Oh, yeah, this is also really rough, because I took the angle grinder flat on that side, and it did better on this side. And this side was actually done first, so, I don't know what mistake I wound up making here, but apparently this was hard to repeat. Anyway. I was saying something about shaping it. Yeah, the curves on this are a lot better. It's still kind of hot. I might round those out because I'm very unlikely to put wood on this one. I also want to finish it in some fashion, like maybe acid etch it. I don't know. I might just like dip from here down in epoxy and see what that does for me. But if I was going to do that, I would want to round off the handle scales first. Anyway, in the past, I've been super critical of 3-finger knives because I always feel like they feel incredibly flimsy. But I wanted to try a 2-finger knife because I'd heard good things, and it seemed like the kind of thing that I would like a whole lot better. The 1-finger knife, the little Talon that I've got here, is a little iffy. I think what it is this finger acts like a fulcrum, like in the middle of a seesaw, and that puts the rest of the weight from whatever I'm doing on this finger. And this finger is a strong one, and this finger is a weak one. But by the time that it gets down here for like a 3.5 to a 4-finger blade, it's distributed well enough that it's not going to matter. So what I mean by a 3.5-finger blade is there's just that little cutout spot where the finger rests. And it was this knife in particular that inspired me to go for a full 4-finger knife. Anyway, the sheath actually took longer to make than the knife itself. This was 45 minutes, not including grinding of the edge, and grinding the edge combined with making the sheath from start to finish took about maybe 2.5 hours, something like that. I wound up going with these little guys because I'm experimenting with other methods of closure, and this grips on quite heartily, and it doesn't rattle. And it's very low print, and I like it a lot. I'm probably going to be wearing this around for a while now. The edge has so far not seen any actual wear, despite being I have noticed no decrease in performance over the last couple days, despite using it for every cutting task that I've had. Another note on the sheath is I put a little groove right here in the kydex. That groove is just so I know which way is forward in case it's unlaced for whatever reason. I mostly use that, but you know, just in case I ever have to sheath in the dark, I've got that. Now, I haven't decided fully what to do with this scrap piece. You can see I took a pencil and traced out the image of one knife on one side, a different profile on the other side. There's the same grooves that are down here, but transferred up there. And then yet another knife on this side. I can't decide if I want it to be a drop point 3.5-finger blade, with the edge being right there, and the point being about right there, or if I want it to be a 4-finger blade and try and squeeze it in. You can see the little indent right there. That might be a little tight, but my hands are relatively, I don't have sausage fingers or anything like that, so it will fit me and no one else. That'll also mean that my knife is really uncomfortable to use if I have to lend it to somebody. Or I could have this exact grip and that exact setup, but just flip it to the other side. Now, I suppose hypothetically, so I might actually wind up running this all the way to the end and make another Warncliffe out of it. And if I don't like that, then I'll just taper it back and give it, basically this profile on a large knife. And we'll try that around for a little while. But I like the idea of just that straight blade. I wanted to do something like that. The actual fabrication process is pretty quick, so yeah, I don't know. I'll probably ask around to see if anybody would want one of these if I decide not to keep one of them. And I've got an entire other saw blade here for if anybody wants to use that's in the future. Or basically, I'm keeping that to make for when I don't suck. Alright, thanks guys. If you enjoyed this video, give me a like to raise my ranking in search results. Give me a share around to people that you know to increase my viewership, or give me a subscription to see more videos like this in the future. This is mainly a discussion of me making knives, which is the first time that I've ever done that, and it was super simple, and I didn't wind up taking a whole lot of production photos. You can see those right there. There's an imgur album in description where descriptions are to be had. Not a whole lot extra to say on that fact. I might do something slightly more about how I got started with this. Thanks go out to Aaron Gough of Gough Custom, who inspired me to actually go for it. Even though I'm not using the tools that he used, I plan to when I get around to buying and shaping some wood to make a filing jig and all of that. I don't have a torch or anything like that to do heat treating, but that's coming down the pipeline whenever I have money to throw around at that. I guess if you want a knife, shoot me a message. Yeah, so anyway, thanks for watching.